Welcome once again to this exciting React.js tutorial. Today we want to combine everything we talked about in our previous React.js course to build awesome React.js website. Alright, and if you look at the screen, you will notice I already created the interface. I have the CSS and HTML parts done already. Okay, I have a search bar, it's not working at the moment, and I also have my account where I can create login and registration. But it's not working. I have a cat icon with 0 inside of it. Everything is hard coded for the moment, and as you can see, I have just one shoe multiplied in 8 places. Okay, because everything is static. There is nothing dynamic at the moment. All right, so you just the same component in 8 places. On this particular place, I have a shoe that is taking the spotlight at the moment. Now, how I want this to be is that by the time every time a user enters into this application, every time a user launches the website, a new shoe should take the spotlight, right? And if the page renders or refreshes, a new shoe should take the spotlight too. Okay, so it shouldn't be just one, so it has to be changing automatically. Also, this application is responsive. You can see I can check the mobile view, right? And you can see from the mobile view that it is a responsive application. This is how it's going to be in the mobile, in your mobile phone. All right, and I made this possible. I didn't have to spend a lot of time creating this feature. All right, that is because if I want to create this using the vanilla conventional CSS, I would have spent more time, all right, building the interface. But because I wanted this to be done fast, and I don't want to dwell so much, I don't want to waste a lot of time on creating the UI, I had to use something called Tailwind CSS, all right, to make this happen. Now, if you don't know Tailwind CSS, that shouldn't stop you from taking this course, because we won't be talking about Tailwind CSS today. But however, if you want to build more robust UI, okay, and you want to do it without having to spend a lot of time doing it, then you need Tailwind CSS. Also, a lot of employers in this industry are looking for front-end developers who have the knowledge of Tailwind CSS, because it makes the job easy and it makes the job more flexible. All right, so if you want to learn how to use this, if you don't know how to use Tailwind CSS, I already have a dedicated tutorial to Tailwind CSS, and you can check the link in the description box. I think I'm done with the talking. Let us go straight to the point. My name is Martins, and this is Curly Brackets. All right, you're welcome once again. On this application, I have already installed React Router DOM. All right. I've already installed React Router, and you can see I already have some things done. And here are some of my Tailwind base codes. Okay, and here you will see my Tailwind configuration, and here is the component for my header. So everything I did in this header, all right, you can find them in this component. Also, on the mobile view of this application, you will see I have a menu right here, and once I go to the mobile view, right, it gives me this. All right, I know you see this in a lot of websites. This is a very easy thing to do using Tailwind CSS. Of course, you can still do it using the conventional CSS. All right, and you can see it. So these are things that you can learn how to do, all right, using Tailwind CSS, and I already fixed this part, okay, because I didn't want to spend a lot of time doing that in this tutorial. Okay, I didn't want to bore anybody with CSS codes and everything, so I had to get this out of the way first. Okay, so now that I have this already working and I have React Router installed, so I think we should go ahead and go straight to the point. Okay, so the first thing we do, as you can see on this particular place, I have the same product everywhere, and it shouldn't be that way, right? But the reason why it's like this is because here is our header, okay, and then I have a component called hero product, and I have a component called home. The component hero product, right, is where the UI for this was handled, all right, and then in that place I used props, all right, and my props is destructured. Now, if you understand in our props tutorial that I talked about destructuring, now this is what it means. All right, I would have done this by just saying, in case you are used to seeing this, all right, seeing it props like this. Well, it is the same thing that I just did. If I had used this type of props, what I would have done is, instead of having image here, I would have said props.image, right? And instead of having pricing here, I would have said props.pricing, but I don't want to waste time doing that, so I had to destructure everything. All right, so that's the reason why it is like this. So this is the hero product UI, the actual component, right? And then that component was rendered right inside this component home.js. So you can see the hero product is rendered here, imported here, rendered here, and then we now have assigned some hard-coded props to it. Okay, so this image, the Lorem Ipsum text, the price and everything, okay, and the title. So these are hard-coded. All right, and then in the same home component, I rendered product. Okay, you can see I rendered product, and I rendered product again, and I rendered product again, and I rendered product again, and they all have the same props, which is the reason why you are seeing the same component everywhere. Right? If I wanted for it to have different props, different content, I would have used different images, assigned different images to the props, so that would have made it different. Of course, we have talked about all of this when we discuss props. If everything I'm discussing here is sounding like a jargon to you, then probably you shouldn't be in this class. All right, you should first of all take our full React.js course, okay, before moving into here, because from this point henceforth we are going to be building a lot of robust applications. And while building these applications, I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible for you to be able to grab them. All right, this is a project that you can build and add to your portfolio. Okay, and also if you already know Tailwind CSS, because I will be making use of it in some places, and you just want to get what I have already done, if you want this interface, you want to download it and expand on it and build more on it, right? Then I think you should do that. All right, in the description box you're going to see the link to the UI of to the user interface, all right, of this application I'm building right now. Only the UI, just like this, the way it is right here, without any complex React stuff on it. The link is in the description box. It's going to bring you right here, and while you are here, just click on this green button where you have code, and then download the zip. And when you download the zip, all you need to do is to unzip it in a folder. I have it here already, so you can just unzip it right in your folder. When you unzip it, right, you go ahead and rename it, right? So I can call it my eCommerce, call it eCommerce, or anything you want to call it. Go ahead and open it in your Visual Studio Code. All right, here it is. So when you open it in your Visual Studio Code, you see everything that is similar to what I have in my own, right? You can see everything, and then you just have to run your terminal. Okay, and when you run your terminal, ensure you are inside the folder, and then type npm install. All right, and hit enter. This will install the application and all the dependencies, everything I use, going to install them. And then once it's done installing, you just have to type your npm start, and then you should be able to be where I am right now, and you can also build it with me if you want. But of course, if you're not into Tailwind CSS and you just want to use your own CSS, you just want to learn how to write e-commerce codes and use your own CSS and your own design to do it, of course you are also free to to join this tutorial. Okay, so I just did this in case if anybody out there wants to join me and build this just as I'm building it. Okay, let's go straight to the point. We have talked a lot, so let's go straight to the point. And I'm going to bring back my application, the one I'm already making use of, and then we'll continue from where we stopped. All right, so the next thing also I want to talk about is this component right here. You can see I rendered a component here, product. All right, the component was imported and rendered here, product. Okay, so the UI of that product can be found right here. So you see I have product.js, but then I have home.js where I have both the hero and the product, all of the product components. All right, and then all of this, then this home component is now rendered in our app.js. So you can see home, header and footer. Okay, that is just it. I need to change this. All right, I need to ensure that my products are here. So, and to do that, I included in this tutorial, I included a component we are going to use for now as our database. This is entirely a front-end tutorial, so there is no database for now. We are not using any Firebase or any Node.js or MongoDB, no database at all, or MySQL where we have our products stored, and then or API where we have our product stored, and then we are going to read the product from there. No, we don't have any of such thing. So I created an API myself, all right, so that we are going to use that as our data source for now, right? Because because all of those database stuff are beyond the scope of this tutorial. I have to call this product API.js. All right, so it's here, so I'm going to go ahead and import the product. Right, all right, I have the product imported already. All right, you can see, notice that I gave every product an ID, right? Every product has an ID, and then there's an image link from Unsplash, and then every product has a name, it has a description, and they all have their sizes. All right, so this is not for now. I think this is enough for this tutorial I want to create, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it. All right, so I have this already here. So first thing I'm going to do is I will go to my home component, and all of this stuff I have here, I'm going to take them out. All right, I'm going to take out everything I have right here. All of this component, I'm going to delete everything. All right, because every time I have a new product, I don't have to come and I don't have to open my application, open my code, and add a product component. All right, so I want to make it that from my database I can feed my entire application automatically without having to write code every time. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to import this API right here. Remember that this is an array, right? You can see product is equal to, you can see the bracket here, the array kind of bracket right here, right? So this is an array of this is an array of objects, right? This is one object. One object stops here, another object starts. Okay, so and every object has an item in it. All right, I'm going to come back to my home, and then I have to import the API I want to use. So I'm going to import product items, from product API, this one. So if you open product items, you're going to see that the variable is product items and the array is product items, and we exported it right here, right? We exported it right here. So we import it. I can close it right now, we don't have any need for it, and I can close this as well. So now that I've imported it, what I need to do right now is come over here and render it. Okay, so I'm going to render it, but before I do that, I'm going to put curly brackets, right, because I want to write JavaScript. So I will say product item dot map. All right, and when I map into it, I'm going to say item. So you remember, usually we are going to use something to represent every item in the product in the array, right? So this here represents every item, any item, the one you choose. Okay, so and then we are going to render the product, right? Render the product. So let's check it out. Now you can see we have the product stuff rendered in multiple places, but it doesn't have any props at the moment, so we are going to give it props. Okay, so it means for every item in this product item, we want you to render this component for every item, and when you render the component, you have to assign the following props to them. So we want this to be the item dot image. Okay, I think if you've been following my tutorial, you will notice that I have done this a lot of times, right? I've shown how you can do this, and I have used this kind of method a lot. So I'm going to use the type you are likely to be seeing a lot. All right, a lot of developers won't do this. They will rather destructure it. So I'm going to use a different. I really want you to get used to this, because when I was learning React, right, one of the things that stood out for me is that a lot of instructors don't explain these so-called little things, all right, and really they matter. Okay, because I could remember that I had to struggle with this destructuring thing. At first, it didn't make sense the first and second day. All right, so I really have to use the two methods so that anybody who is at the point where I was at the time can understand it. And of course, if you run into a code that have that kind of method, you won't be confused. So instead of having this item here, I would rather destructure it, right? You can see when your mouse goes to this thing here, you see that this item, right, contains ID, image, out, pricing. This items thingy here, you see item curly bracket. So this item here is an object, and it contains is a parameter, right? So it means that this parameter item, all right, has the following: image, pricing, title, quantity, description, size. All right, so these are the things that this guy has. So that means that I can decide to even copy it. I want you to see how this works. I can just copy it. So I can decide to copy it. So instead of having an item here, I will just destructure it. A lot of you know this already, but please permit me to explain it for those who don't. So I can just paste this way. Okay, so I don't need having this anymore. I don't need it like this. So I will just say ID image, and then so this way I have destructured it. All right, I have destructured it. So instead of having this stuff like this, I will now say ID is equal to ID, image is equal to image, right? Okay, so you see I no longer have to do item.id, item.image, item.out, item.price. So here, so let's check our product components. Here it is. Of course, we have destructured it too. All right, so we have quantity, we also have quantity, right? We have this, yeah, quantity, and we have to add it. It's equal to quantity, right? We have quantity. Let me check here. We have quantity, so it's right there. Okay, so basically this is it. So I no longer have to say item.this, item.that. Okay, so you can see this, remember. Okay, so you can see it this way. Don't be confused. It is the same, right, as just having a item here, or anything you decide to represent this with. I can call it data. Some people do that, and then I start saying data dot id id data dot this, data dot that. So it's just basically the same thing. All right, so just get used to seeing this too. Right, so let's check this out. Okay, everything is showing except the prices. Okay, the price is not showing. Let's check it out. We have price here. We have price in here, so actually we should have price here, and then it should be price here as well. So let's check it out. Okay, yeah, the price is out. Okay, so the entire thing is scattered, so I will just quickly undo that in CSS. All right, so that's just all right. Yeah, solve the problem for us. All right, so we have several products. The next thing is you can see that all of our products, right, are here. Okay, all of our products are here, and I don't think that is what we want to happen. Okay, all the products are here. Now, if I had 1,000 products in this API, the 1,000 products would have all displayed in the home page. Okay, and I don't think I want that, right? I just want only few products, only 8 like I had before, to display. And to do that, then we have to bring in something called the slice function. You remember slice, right? How you slice bread. Okay, if I'm the one that named these functions in JavaScript, I would have given them a name like this, because actually this particular one, slice, does something that is very close to its name, right? It slices stuff. The slice method returns a shallow copy of a product of an array into a new array object selected from the start to end not included, where start and end represent the index of items in that array. Simple. What this means is that with slice, we can actually cut down the number of products that we want to show here. Okay, of course, a lot of people may argue that there are other ways of doing this. Maybe there are, but for this tutorial, I'm going to use this particular one. And to do it, instead of saying product items.map, I'm going to say product items.slice. And of course, it's a function, right? And then this function is going to accept parameters. It's going to accept the indexes, right? So I'm going to say 0, 8, and then I put full stop right here. Okay, let's check this. Okay, so that slices it to 8. Now, what I did here is that I said product item slice, right, 0x index, right, which gives me only 8 items, and then whatever the result of this slice is, map into it. So it is what we get from here that we now map into, and then we have our results. It's as simple as that. So the next quick one I'm going to do before we go into the real business of the day is this particular one right here. Okay, like I said, every time a user loads this page, a new product, we have to get the spotlight, right? Any product at all. It could be a product that is here already, it could be one that is not even here at the moment, right? So have to get the spotlight. So that way we ensure that all our products get the big stage, get TV time. All right. Okay, so that is what this whole idea is about. And to do that, I'm going to quickly do something. I'm going to just write some codes. All right. And to do that, we are going to write down some codes right here. Well, first of all, we're going to import use effect. Remember that we said, and we're going to install, we're going to import use state as well. So you remember that we discussed that what use effect does is to perform those operations, those things that run the moment our application loads, right? The moment the application renders. The first thing I need to do right here is that I am going to say use effect. Of course, everyone knows it's a callback function. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to push this down a little bit so it doesn't interfere with that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to call it random item. Okay, let me call it random object is equal to object, right, dot values. I'm going to bring in product items right here, and I'm going to paste it inside here. Now what I'm doing, I'm trying to make this, and I'm trying to make object out of this. All right, so I want to make it an object so that I can use it for what I want to do next. Okay, so now that what we have here is now an object, I can now say const random item equal to random object, which is this. We are going to put this right here, and then we'll say math.floor, it's math.random times length. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to quickly explain to you what I'm doing, right? This is a JavaScript function. Math.random is a JavaScript function. Math.floor is a JavaScript function. But before I proceed, I want you to see something. Okay, but let's just proceed a little bit. Before I complete this, I'm going to create my use state. So I'm going to call this state pick random, right? And the function, I will call it function pick random, and I will go and say it's equals to use state. So I'm just creating my state, right? The initial value should be an empty array. Okay. Okay, I'm going to now say set pick random item. Okay, so I am going to explain what I just done. All right, and but then I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to put this inside a function. So I'm going to call this function pick function random product, right? So this is going to be, everything here is going to be inside of this function. Okay, so this function random product, when this function runs, we transfer everything we have here into an object called random object, right? And then we create another variable called random item, and this random item performs some calculations here, and it says math.floor, all right, brackets math.random times random.length, random object.length. I'm going to explain this. If you know this already, please, I'm sorry, permit me to explain for those who do not know at the moment. Now in JavaScript, if you remember, maybe you don't remember, there is a function called math.random, right? Let's check it out. Okay, so W3 school, so I'm going to, let's check it out right here. Okay, so we have math.random, right? And what it does is every time we run it, let's check it out first. See, every time we run it, it generates, every time we run, let's say math.random returns a random number between 0 included and 1 excluded. So it generates random number between 0 included and 1 excluded. That's what math.random on its own does. But then there is math.floor, all right? And when we say, let's run this, when we say math.floor, right, when we envelope math.floor times 10. For example, when we run a code like this, math.random. Okay, so I'm going to take math.floor out for the time being, right? And just run this one. You see, it generates random number, right? Random number with decimals, 0.25, blah 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 blah, times 10. That means the number is going to generate this from is between 1 and 10. It's between 1 and 9. All right. So it's going to generate numbers between 1 and 9, but then there are decimals. All right. It's going to have point something something. But when we add math.floor, add math.floor, when we envelope it with math.floor, right? We envelope it inside math.floor function. All right, we are going to receive whole numbers between 0 and 9. All right, because we say 10 here, and if we say 20, we can have double digits. All right, so what means right here, why we have to make it math.floor is because we are using the number of products we have here. That means automatically means the number of products we have in our database. All right, and we cannot have 100.10 products. It's either we have 100 products or we have 99 products. It's whole numbers we are going to have as number of products. We cannot have 10.20 products, right? I don't think that's possible. You can't have a half shoe somewhere. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So that is the reason why we have to make this math.floor. So we are going to run this. So we're going to run this function. So every time this guy here loads, console.log pick random like this. So let's check it out now. Console. Right, so you see it runs a lot of times. It runs an uncomfortable number of times. All right, and there's a product, right? As a product, and the image of the product is right there. And then this runs an uncomfortable number of times. Let's refresh this page. Okay, so you see it keeps running a lot of times. Let us, instead of having this guy here now, title here, we are now going to have pick random the title. That means the title of the object it picked, right? The title of the item it picked, and then we have pick random dot pricing. Right. Okay, so this is basically what we're going to have here. Let's save this. And so since we have this right now assigned to our props in the hero product component right here, the props will be received from here, and we assign it in, we already have it assigned already. So let's go ahead and check it out. You see random products are displaying, right? See that? So it displays random products, right? But now, even though it's showing just one, we still have a problem, right? Because underneath it, a lot of products are showing. A lot of the code is running over and over, right? The code is running an uncomfortable number of times. So if we have like 1,000 products right here, it can break our code. So we don't want that. So what we need to do right here is we need to tell this guy to run just once, right? So to ensure it runs just once. Okay, all right. All right, so let's check. All right, So that is that for this. So I think we are done with everything we need to do right now. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and make use of React Context API, right? I have a dedicated video where I discuss Context API. I use some illustrations, right, to explain what it does and why we should use it. All right, so in this tutorial, I won't go ahead repeating myself. In case you have not watched that video, right, the full video is in the description box. However, I'm going to put a little part of that video that explains what Context API does. I'm going to include that part in this video, so just watch it and I'll be right back. Ordinarily, React applications are structured in a hierarchical order. Now, what this means is React is structured in a way that for data to be shared, like we did in props, we saw how two components can share data. For data to be shared among these components, it can only be shared between the parent component and the child component. Okay, let's make use of a more practical example, because let me be honest with you, this is not such an easy course, and I want you to learn this topic. If you learn and master this topic, I promise you, you should beat your chest and call yourself a React developer, because from here, I don't think there is anything you are going to encounter in React that you will not be able to resolve. Assuming there's a restaurant anywhere in the world where you pick a number and then you sit in the queue according to your number, and when you make an order, your food have to be passed to the number one guy, and the number one guy passes the food to number two, and the number two guy passes the food to number three, then the number three passes the food to number four before it now gets to you, right? Now imagine when you are number 100. You understand that this is not an efficient way to run a restaurant, right? And I'm not sure you would want to go there. Now, that is the kind of system React runs. Okay, so every time a component requests for a need, that need can only be passed between the component and its parent component through props. This is to say that content sharing is a little bit difficult in React, and this is where Context API comes in. What Context API does is that it builds a central system where all the components that want to make use of data can pass their requests to. So that means if all the functions we need to share, if every state we need to share among all these components is stored in a particular central system, and from that central system, every other component can make their request to this system, to this central system, and this central system answers them. So that is more like where you have an efficient restaurant this time, where when you come into the restaurant, you make your request. Just go straight to the counter and make your request, and then you get served directly without having to pass through anybody. You would agree with me that this is a more efficient way to get things done. That is what Context API does for us. So every time you're about to get confused, think of that restaurant, that you are simply trying to ensure that all your components have access to everything, to every shareable data and information in your application. Okay, so we are right back. So now, in order to distribute resources, we use Context API to do just that. All right, so to create Context API, you are going to see how important it is that we use Context API. Now, first thing I need to do right now is to create context, a folder context. Now, this is not a must, all right? I just want things to be a little bit clarified, right? I don't want everything in the same place. So the first thing, what are the actions we are going to take in this application? Think about it. What are the actions that we are supposed to take in this application, right? One of those actions is that we need to be able to add, item to our cart, right? The first one, the common one, and another one is that we need to be able to remove an item from our cart. All right, so the first known actions that we should take in this application, right, is adding and removing, all right, from our cart. So in Context API, that's what we call actions, and I have to create a component for it, shoe shop actions, right? Shoe shop action.js. So I'm going to create action. And how do I create action? I'm going to say const add to cart equal to add to cart. What is action? Action, like the explanation you just watched, think about it. What is the common action that a customer who comes to the restaurant will make? He has to place an order, right? He has to place an order. That is common action. So all right, so I'm going to create another action here. This one I will call it remove. This is how you create actions, actually, just like this. All right, remove from cart. Okay, just like this. Remove from cart. I'm not sure I'm going to explain context API, right, the way I explained it in my previous tutorials on this tutorial, because on this particular one I am just making use of things that I have already taught. All right, please, you can go ahead and check out a lot of things from that tutorial. The link is in the description box. Okay, so I have these two, so I'm going to export them. Okay, so like this. So let us create the context itself. So I'm going to call this one shoe shop context.js. all right, and right here I'm going to import something from React called create context from React, and then I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to create a variable shoe shop context, right? And I'm going to make it is equal to create context. So with this variable right now, we can access everything this guy has to offer to us. All right, so I'm going to export default shoe shop context. All right, create another one. I'm going to call this one shoe shop states, right? So this is where this particular place we are going to import shoe shop context, right? All right, so we're going to import shoe shop context, and let's push this down a little bit, because we're going to have a lot of things running here. So here, this is our context. Okay, so we are going to render shoe shop context, but then we have to hide this because it is our context provider. Now in context, there is the consumer and there is the provider. All right, so this guy here is our context provider. Okay, so but we are expecting it to have children, so we say props.children. Now what this simply means is that we are going to add a lot of things right here. We are going to add a lot of stuff right here, right? So we're going to add our entire application. Every application we are going to have in this is going to run here. Okay, so we want this provider to expect things to come under here. So for it to be expectant, all right, of what we are going to render here in the future, we're going to say props.children. So and we have to put props here. So I want you to just follow me. It's going to make sense in a very short time. All right. So index.js, right now we are going to import something. We are now going to import shoe shop state, this particular one here. Okay, so of course we have already rendered our provider, our context provider in it. So we are now going to use this guy, right? We use this guy now to envelope our entire application. We need to use it to wrap our entire application. So we're going to use this guy to wrap our entire application, just like this. So I can push this forward. Alright, so let's move on. It's going to make sense in a very short time. Now the next thing I'm going to do is come over here in this shoe shop state. Alright, we're going to import something else. It is called use reducer from React. All right, the reducer, for an example, in the example I used in the description, a restaurant, the reducer is the guy that does the cooking, the chef himself. We're going to run something here called the dispatch. The dispatch is the guy, maybe the guy who delivers the food, or the guy who gives the guy who delivers the food. All right, but somehow the dispatch guy is who we are going to use to run the delivery. And how do we do that? Once the reducer is done cooking, we receive it from here through the dispatch, and then we pass it on this particular place. Once we pass it here, every other component in this application will be able to get it from here direct. We no longer have to keep passing props all the time. So we have to declare our reducer, right? So to do that, just like we declare use state, we say the reducer, right, has two properties. Just like the state has two properties, the state variable and the function through which we can make changes to the variable. The same way, the reducer receives two things. One is a state and one is dispatch. Now I want you to get used to this, all right, because there is no React without this topic. In fact, you must learn this topic. You don't have any other option. All right, so if you are not grabbing the tutorial that about context here, please go ahead and check the full tutorial I did on context. All right, I think there I was more elaborate, okay, about state. So I'm going to say about context. All right, so I'm going to say use reducer. All right, so this use reducer is going to accept two parameters. All right, one is the reducer itself, okay, the function, the reducer function. All right, I don't know what to call it, but there should be a reducer function. All right, we don't have it yet, but it's going to be here somewhere. But then that is not all. We are going to have an initial state, right? An initial state for this state right here. So there's going to be an initial state. So we are going to declare that initial state for this tutorial, or for what we are building. This initial state right here should be a variable. All right, and this should hold, it should be an object, right? An object variable, and it should hold, right? It should hold an item, and this item is an array. Okay, as you can see right here. So for now, it's an empty array. So we'll call it basket, or we can call it cart. So first of all, the next thing we do, we need to import those actions right here now. So I'm going to import add to cart from shop action, and then we import the border, remove from cart. Okay, so before we go forward, right, let us go ahead. Of course, it's showing us some error. We have not created the reducer function. Let's change this to shoe shop reducer, so we can have similar stuff. All right, so I don't want to do this here, so I'm going to do it in a different component. So I'm going to say shoe import shoe shop reducer, yeah, like this, from from shoe shop reducer. Okay, we have to create it then. So we create shoe shop reducer. .js. All right, so first I'm going to import these actions once again. I'm going to import them. So now that I have them, I'm going to go ahead and so I'm going to declare a function, and this function I will call it shoe shop reducer. All right. This function is going to accept two parameters. It's going to accept a state, and is going to accept an action. Of course, we have actions here, so it's going to accept a state and it's going to accept an action. Now, to go further, we are going to use the JavaScript switch statement, right? Because you know how to run the JavaScript switch statement, and right here we're going to have action.type, right? Because of course we are going to go through all the action types, and we are going to write our codes. All right, so for case add to cart, all right, we are going to I need to put this right here. For case add to cart, okay, we are going to return a value. And what we are going to return is that we want everything that the state already has, okay, and then we want the basket variable that we have the other place, this basket here, this particular one here, okay, yes. So, and then we want, I think I need to close this. Then we want the basket, all right, to get everything the basket already has, and then we are going to add action dot payload. Right now, action dot payload. Let's talk about what payload is. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, but after this, okay, here I'm going to put a default. I'm going to say return state. So by default, return the state right here. Oh, sorry, it should be in here. Going to be in here. Okay, so let's check out what payload is right here. Okay, we're going to create a function. So we're going to call this function add to cart. Inside this function, we are going to declare the dispatch just like this, and the dispatch will structure it. We have two items. One is the type, right? We are referring to the action type add to cart, and we want to give it a payload. And the payload, let's give it a payload. Let's call the payload product, or let's call it item. So that means this add to cart is going to accept a parameter called item. So because we are going to pass something to this guy, right? We need to pass a value, like when we click on add to cart, what we are going to send to this function. So that is an item. So he's expecting to get an item, and this item right here actually should be ID of the product, title of the product, image, price, quantity, and all of that, size, and all of that properties. So that is what this guy is going to accept as a parameter. So now that we have this add to cart right here in dispatch, so the dispatch is going to, so we have this right here. We now need to pass it as a value to our context provider. That is because we restructure it. So that is because once it is here right now, okay, and we save it, every other application, right, every other component in this application right now have access to it. All right, so we have some error. Let's check what it is. Okay, let's check what it is. Shoe shop reducer imported as shoe shop reducer was not found in shoe shop reducer. Okay, yeah, we need to export this guy. This should solve the problem. Okay, of course. All right, okay, let's go to product. So we are going to import use context, right? Because we have imported create context, so now it's time to use it. So we're going to, and we have to import the context that we created, the shoe shop context. All right, from this particular one here. Okay, so now that we have imported it, we have to do something. We need to come over here and we need to say const add to cart. That is the function we just sent into our context provider, right? The function we just sent into the provider, we need to accept it now, and then we say it's equal to use context, right? And we have to copy this and put it right inside here. So this is the context it's going to use, and that is the context, that is the provider, right? So it's going to use this. All right, so where is the cart? Okay, so now I'm going to create a variable. I want to call it new item, and it's going to be an object, right? So, and I'm going to add few things to the cart. I'm going to add the ID. Now I can say ID, right? And then I'll say image, but I'm using ES6. So once the item and the whatever you want to add here is the same, I can just leave it like this, because I can just leave it like this, right? So I can say price, all right. I'm also adding the quantity. I will leave it. Okay, I'll add the size too, although we don't have any distance handling the size for now, so I'll just leave it like this for now. All right, so right now I'm going to create function. I'm going to create a function. I'll call this function handle add to cart. Function handle to add to cart, and what will this function do is when we run this function, we simply run add to cart. Remember, add to cart is a function that is expecting an item, that's expecting a parameter. So the parameter should be this guy that we just declared here. Okay, so having done this, the next thing I'm going to do right now is the add to cart icon, which is this. Let's just make this red, right? Since our application has red theme, I'll make this red. All right, so I'm going to say on click. Oh, you know what? I'm going to say on click. Right, I'm going to tell it to on click. We want you to run handle add to cart. I have to break this. So on click, wanted to run this code right here. Okay, so and okay, let us bring something else. Okay, let's go back here. We need to bring in the basket, right? So we need to bring in basket. The basket should be state dot basket, right? Comma. So the basket should be state dot basket. So we're talking about this basket right here. So it should be whatever the state is holding. Okay, so let's go back here. So I'm going to not just bring in the add to cart, I'm going to bring in the basket too. Okay, so I'm going to say here, I'm going to say console dot log basket. So when we add something, we should be able to know if a basket is added or not. All right, so I'm going to refresh. All right, so now that I'm refreshed, I'm going to say add to cart. So let's check our console. I'm going to add these two. Of course, you can see there's no hover effect or anything, so I'm just going to check the console. Okay, see, we have two products in the basket, right? And see, it's from the console log basket. Right, so go back to the console. So we have two products, right? We have an array, and this array has two products inside of it, and those are those two products that I just added right now. So you can see that our add to cart is working. All right, so now that our add to cart is working, we just have to, you know what, let me make this a little bit, let me add some, oh, so I'm going to say hover, so I can have some hover effects. All right, okay, so that makes the work a little bit easier. Yeah, it works. All right, okay, so now that we have items in our basket, all right, so let us quickly go to our header. So now that we are in our header, we simply need to import these same things that we imported here, context, and okay, I'm going to close this. I don't need it. I'm going to close this as well. I don't need it for now. I don't need this for now, so I'm going to use, I don't need the index, I don't need this, I'm going to use only this. So I'm going to import this two stuff right here, the use context from React and then the context component. All right, so and I'm also going to say const basket, because that is what I need. Use context. I'm going to add this to it. Okay, so I'm going to come over here where I have 0. Of course, this particular place 0 right here. So instead of having 0 here, instead of having the hard-coded stuff, I'm now going to say basket.length, right? Okay, let's check it out. So I have two now, right? The same two items I have in my array, in the basket array. So I have two right here, and when I add another one, I have three. Okay, so now that we have the cart, let us go ahead. We have to go ahead right now. We have to make it possible so that when we click on the cart, we are going to see what we have on the cart, right? So to do that, I'm going to come over to the basket. So here is the basket. So I'm going to use my React router link to, when we click here, we want it to take us to somewhere. I want it to take us to the checkout page. I need to take us to the checkout page. Okay. We haven't created it, so we need to create the checkout page. So what this means right now is that we have to restructure our app.js. We need to import routes and routes from React router DOM, right? And then I need to say routes, and I'm going to put it right here. Is it to wrap everything? And so I'm going to declare my route component Alright, so and then I'm going to say paths. I want this one to be home. This is the home page, right? So the element, I'm going to put all of this into the element. And I have to wrap it with some tag. I have to use a tag to wrap it. Alright, so we now close the route. Okay, so now we have the route closed, so we are going to duplicate it. To duplicate it, this particular one should go to checkout. So here I'm going to create a component called checkout, and I'm going to render it here. So I'm going to import that component also. Import checkout. From checkout. So now I'm going to create a component called checkout, right? I'm going to add it right here. Stop. So I have my, so I'm going to hit the checkout page. All right, so let's see it. When we click on this link here, it takes us to the checkout page. Excellent. So now I'm going to add some CSS to this, so please give me a while. All right, so now that I have this, I'm going to render a component here, and I will call this component checkout item. So every item, every product we add here, we want it to be displayed in a particular kind of way. So I'm going to create a component for that. Just like I have product components showing this product, right? I want to have a checkout component too, right? That will show all our components that are in the cart. So I'm going to import check out item. We're going to import checkout item from Alright, I'm going to import checkout item from checkout item. So I need to create the component itself. So I'm going to create checkout item dot js, and then I'm going to add some CSS, so give me a while. You're welcome back. All right, so I just created a static component. All right, checkout item with static image, static title, static size, and a static price. Okay, and let's go to our checkout, and I just rendered that component here. I just imported it, the checkout item component, and rendered it right here. So what this means is that if we now import in this checkout page, you can see it. This is our checkout page. Okay, it's our checkout page. That's the only thing there. That means if we import use context, and import shoe context, all right, this particular one, and we declare our use context by calling on the basket equal to use context, and then inside of it we are going to put the shoe context. So that means if we say right here, if we write a JavaScript and say, so if you say basket.map, right, and then we have an item, that means for every item in this basket, we want to render this component, right? For every item in this basket, we want to render this component. Yeah, so let us check what we are going to have. We are going to have 1, 2, 3 components, because of course we have 3 components right here. You understand the gist right now, right? So that is how it is. Okay, I'm going to let me create another div here. All right, so for every item in this basket, I just want this in a straight line. So for every item in this basket, we are going to have this component rendered, right? That is normal thing. So now we have 3 components, and then we have 3 of these rendered. So if we make this 4, we have 4 in the basket, so we have 4 of it rendered right here. So what this simply means is that if we now assign props to this, we are going to have ID equal to item.id, and then image now that we have this, we need to pass it to this guy through props. All right, so I'm going to say props, or I'll just destructure it, which is what I prefer. Just destructure it, quantity image, size, and pricing. Okay, so instead of having the hard-coded 300 here, I'm going to have pricing, and instead of having this here, I'm going to have title, which I didn't bring in. I'm going to have title. So we need title. And here we are going to alright, what else? So on this image side, we need to have image here. Okay, and so here we should have quantity. Actually, should have quantity. Okay, so let's check that. So you can see now we have our 3 items, our 4 items rather, represented. The price is not showing. Pricing. Oh, what we added into the basket was price. Let's check it out. What we added was price, but let's make this the same, please. So let us add price in here. So I'm going to check out which particular place. So we should have price in here. Alright, that solves it. Price is not defined. Product should be pricing. Alright, our price should be out. It is not. Oh, okay, so we have a problem, right? The problem is we already added the ones that has price into the cart, so even as we have made changes, it's not affecting those ones. Right, so I'm going to refresh this so everything start afresh. Okay, so I'm going to add again. Alright, so everything is working. So we have this right here. Alright, now we can see every product we add, we get to see it in the cart. Okay. Okay, but then we have a little bit problem, right? Everything is working, but then we have a little bit concern. You can see that this product here is showing twice. All right, I don't think I want it that way, right? Instead of having 2 products here, I should rather be able to have it one, and I can now make use of this increment and decrement button here that are kind of static at the moment. I can now use this to increase it, and when I'm increasing it, the price should also be able to increase, to reflect the quantity of this particular shoe that I have in the cart. All right, so that is how I want this to work. Okay, so to do that, instead of having one item multiple times, we can just have one item with a different quantity. So what we need to do every time we add an item to the basket is to check if the product already exists in the basket, and if the product already exists in the basket, instead of adding new one, we just have to increment it by 1. So to make that happen, we need to come straight to our right here, and we have to perform some operations before doing this. So I want to say let product call it product exists variable equal to, I'm I'm going to use the find function. State dot basket dot find. The find function in JavaScript. Now, what find function does in JavaScript does is it's going to return only one item if it exists. So it's going to search through the database, and once it finds the one that matches, just one, it will have to return the value of that particular one, right? But it is a bit different from filter. All right, filter will not just find one item, it would keep searching after finding one item to know if there's another one, and then keep searching until it gets all items that match. But for find will only return the first item, right, that matches the search criteria. So I'm going to say, so I'm going to use this to represent all the items, right? So we need to check where item ID is equal to action dot payload dot ID. Okay, this item here represents all the items in the basket, so we need to search the basket to check where there is a product which ID is equal to the action dot payload dot ID. Okay, so that means the item we want to add, right, the ID of that item. Okay, so the next thing we say is if the product, if the product doesn't exist, that's the meaning of this. Okay, we want to run something. If the product doesn't exist, then we create a new variable. Let's call it new item. Oh, let's call it new product. Oh, we can call it new item. Okay, new product. Okay, so let's new item be equal to, I'm going to take everything here, and put it here. So let me just do this way. So I'm going to declare this variable right here, and then I'm just going to say new product. Okay, I like having some clarity. All right, so this is it. I just created a variable called product exists, right, and I ran this test. Okay, so I have my new product right here, another variable. So I say if product exists returns false, then go ahead and add the product right into the basket. So that means this is what we now have here. Okay, else we are going to run something else. We are going to say else new product should be equal to state.basket or like this, state.basket dot map. Right, we have to map into it, and we are going to find that item that matches the ID. We are going to find that item whose ID matches the ID of our action dot payload dot ID, and then we are going to perform the following operation. We want to include everything the item already has. round to include everything the item already has. But when we get to the quantity, we want the quantity to be quantity plus 1. Else, just return the item. Just the way it is. Right, let's check what we have. Save it. Oh, sorry, not quantity like this. It should be alright. So I just fixed that. Sorry, I shouldn't have that block bracket there. Okay, so that is it, right? See, you can see now we have quantity, we have 3. We have 2 because I clicked 2 times. Let's click it one more time. Alright, so you can see that we have just one product. We still have only one item in the basket, but this item right now we have 3 quantities, right? We have it 3. So don't you think we should make it in a way that we can increase or decrease this quantity here, so the user, right, can change his or her mind and decide to reduce the number of one particular product that he has. Alright, so let us go there. But then you see that the quantity is now 3, but the price is still the same. Okay, and that is what I think we should fix right immediately. And the checkout item has pricing here. Okay, instead of having pricing here, it should have pricing times quantity. So whatever the quantity is times price. Let's check. Right, good. So we now have $918 as the price. Okay, so we need to make it so that we can add or remove, right? We can increase or decrease the values. Or to do that is that we no longer only need to add or remove from carts, we now also need to increase or decrease. So our action, we now need more actions, right? So we need to get the actions first. So we're going to export const increase. I'll call it inc. So decrease, and then we're going to have it deck right here. Okay, so we quickly go to reducer. Alright, so we have case add to carts. We need another case. Alright, so let's have case increase. Alright, so we need to return a value. What we're going to return is going to be whatever the state has already, and on the basket we're going to have exactly what we're having. Right, so we're going to map into the database. We check if the ID of the data we want to work on matches the ID of the payload, right? So we want to increase it by 1, right? And then for the decrement, we have to create one for decrement. We need to have another action deck. Instead of halos here now, we should have minus. Alright, they're not defined, or we have not imported them, so we need to import them right here. Okay, so next thing, I need to send it to our provider, right? So to do that, we need to create a new function here. So I'm going to call this increase item. The payload should be ID, right? And this, so the payload should be ID. So, and the type should be the action we just created for increase. Why is this here? Okay, so I need to bring and decrease into this. So now I need to pass this to the provider. So it's a function, of course. Right, so the next thing I need to do is need to copy this. I'm going to rename it deck item, and the type should be decrease. I'll just have to copy this. Okay, so now that I have this right here, let me go to checkout item. I need to use context. Okay, so what it means is So I'm going to create functions. Call this one increase. And this function we run the in item function, and it is going to receive the parameter ID. So we run this function again. This time around should be decrease, and we're going to run the decrease item function, and it has to accept ID as parameter. So here I have the button. Here is the plus button, so I'm going to say on click increase, and for this one I'll say decrease. So let's see what happens. Okay, it's not running. Let's find out why. Actually, the payload is already the ID, right? And what we're passing to what we passed here as parameter is the ID, right? So we already passed the ID, so ID is already the payload. Okay, so this particular place we shouldn't say action.payload.id, we should actually say action.payload. Alright, let's save and check it out. Alright, it works, right? It's working, and we can minus. Now the problem is when we can get 0 quantity, we can get -2, -3, so we need to handle that quickly. Alright, so we are going to add we're going to test some conditions right here. Okay, so we'll say if quantity is greater than or equal to 1. Then we run this. Okay, let's check. Okay, so for this we'll say if quantity is greater than or equal to 0, then we run this. Greater than 0, yes, we run this. Okay, so not greater than or equal to. So if quantity is greater than 0, we run this. Let's check it out. It's not 0, sorry, greater than 1. Actually, to be greater than 1. And let's take it down. Okay, so I think this works. Okay, if the quantity is 4, it means that there are 4 items, but it's still showing 2. Okay, if the like you have 4 now, but it's still showing 2. So generally you have 8 items technically, but it's still showing 2. Okay, that depends on how you want to do it. If you want it to display, if you want what is here to display only the unique items, then you are correct. But if you want it to reflect actually the actual number of items there, then it's wrong. In the next video, we are going to see how we can do that, and also we are going to work on our remove from cart button, so that when we add an item into our basket, we can also remove the item that we don't want. We are also going to work on how we can empty our cart with just one click, and we are also going to work on our search bar, so that we make the search bar of our application usable. And there are many other features we are going to add into this application as we go, and the next video is a continuation of this particular one. Please go ahead and like this video, subscribe to this channel, and if you have any question, please go ahead and drop it in the comment section, and also share this video and tell people about this channel so we can grow this community. Thank you, and see you in the next video.